Hello, folks. Dustin Zarni here, Democratic Elections Commissioner in Onondaga County, and welcome to Commissioner in a Car, or should I say, Commissioner at a Conference. Because I am not in my car tonight, because I am at the summer conference for the New York State Elections Commissioner Association. This is one of our two conferences that we do for training for all of our elections commissioners throughout the state. Tomorrow, I stand for re-election as caucus chair for the New York State for all of the Democratic Elections Commissioners. And if I'm elected, I'll serve another year on that. And it's been one of the honors of my life to do that. I've been doing it since 2017. This is what these conferences are about. But I decided to do this Commissioner Car today because of the news. The news of Vice Presidential nominee Tim Walz was announced this morning. And he will be partnered with current Vice President Kamala Harris, who will run for president. And Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, will be her vice presidential nominee. And they will square up against Donald Trump and J.D. Vance from the GOP. Now, let's recap how we got here, because it is weird, right? Well, there's a lot of weird things out there. But it's a different way of how this happened. When President Biden dropped out before the convention, he endorsed Kamala Harris, the current vice president, and there was a slew of people, almost everybody in the party, immediately came out and endorsed Kamala Harris. There was a virtual convention already planned. The virtual convention has just completed. The reason the virtual convention was planned was because the date for the Democratic National Convention, August 18th to the 22nd, was past some of the standard ballot access dates for some of the states. So they decided to have a virtual convention. This was actually before Joe Biden dropped out. They made this rule change back in May because they didn't want to lose the ability to be on the ballot in places like Ohio and California and Nevada. So what happened there was the DNC decided to hold this virtual convention. And even though President Joe Biden dropped out, the virtual convention was already on. And since we hadn't had a convention yet, it was pretty easy to replace Joe Biden on the ballot with anyone because no votes had actually happened. We know when we vote for primaries, we vote for delegates. We don't actually vote for the candidates. And the delegates have yet to choose. So the delegates were free to choose whoever they wanted, but almost instantly all of them pledged to Kamala Harris. So a rule was put in place that on August 7th, which is tomorrow, the chairman of the DNC would declare who the vice presidential nominee is of the Democratic Party after it is endorsed by the presidential nominee. Well, earlier today, I think it was earlier yesterday, enough delegates had cast their virtual ballot that Kamala Harris became the official presidential nominee of the Democratic Party. And today she announced that Governor Tim Walz is her vice presidential nominee. So DNC Chair Jamie Harrison will certify that. And that will be that. The convention that will happen later this month is kind of a pro forma convention. There'll be a lot of speeches, a lot of pomp and circumstances, but the actual ballot, the ballot access mechanism has happened over the last few days with the virtual convention and now the naming of the vice presidential nominee. Now, as you know, and because I've said this on Twitter and on this podcast several times, I felt like we had an incredible stock of vice presidential nominees. In addition to Governor Tim Walz, there was Governor Josh Shapiro, Governor Andy Beshear, Secretary Pete Buttigieg, Senator Mark Kelly, and Governor J.B. Pritzker. And those were an incredible stock. We couldn't really go wrong. That being said, I'm pretty ecstatic by the choice of presidential nominee Kamala Harris. I'll be honest, he wasn't my first choice. Um, he, Mark Kelly was my first choice. I like the idea of having an astronaut. But Governor Walz is a former congressman who represented a rural district in Minnesota, a district that was Republican in nature. So a lot of people, including my friend Nick in the comments here, are going to try to say he's a radical Democrat. He's not a radical Democrat. He governed middle of the world as congressman. He did, after becoming governor, pass a whole bunch of reforms that were common sense reforms. Free breakfast for school kids, voting rights reforms. These are things that are not radical by any nature. But Governor Walz is a veteran. He's a former NRA member. He's a plain talking communicator. He's everybody's grandpa. This is a great pick, and it's going to appeal to independents in all 7 of the swing states. Now, Minnesota is not a swing state, so there's not a direct benefit there. But if he's playing to the independents of all of the swing states, that's going to help the Democratic ticket. It's going to help congressional candidates. It's going to help Senate candidates in those areas. And it's going to lift the tide for President nominee Kamala Harris to become president on November 5th. So that's my instant reaction. We've already seen that today they've raised over $20 million since the announcement earlier this morning. And Governor Walz is a great attack dog. And I don't mean that in a rabid dog sense like we see with President Trump or former President Trump. But he's just states things in a way that is plain and simple for people to understand. He's the one who coined the weird term that it's kind of taken off over the last few days, describing the presidential or the Republican presidential slates and their 2020 Project 2025, Project 2025 list of values that are out there that is basically the Republican platform. So, it's just, he had a great line at his rally today. He said something like, I don't even know. Oh, crime is down under Joe Biden, and that's including Donald Trump's convictions. So, he's going to be able to say that he said it and delivered it way better than I did because I'm very tired right now. But he is going to be able to talk to the average person in a way that I think is going to be very powerful on the campaign trail. But that being said, what I think doesn't matter. It's what the voters think. And now we have a presidential nominee, a vice presidential nominee from all of the parties, including the 2 major ones in Democrat and Republican. And now it's time for the debates. First the convention for the Democratic convention, and then the debates. In New York, our ballot will not be certified by the state board until September 11th. And then we will start sending out absentee ballots around September 14th, 15th. So somewhere in that range, we will certify our ballot, and then 40 days before the election, around middle of September or later September, we will start sending out our vote by mail ballots. So there's plenty of time for the ballot to be finalized. So the recent changes that has happened doesn't hurt us at all, or really any municipality in America. It's we have plenty of time to make the ballots. In fact, we have Supreme Court conventions in New York happening around the state, although not in Onondaga County, as we don't have any Supreme Court openings over the next month. And then, of course, there's the amendments that local amendments were due to the boards of elections on August 5th. That was yesterday. Next week, I will do in my commissioner car a little breakdown of all the different propositions and constitutional amendments that will be on the ballot in Onondaga County, as we'll have them all in. So you may remember that the ERA was finalized by the court. However, the question itself and how it's worded is going to court again. So there's still some question about the wording there. So that's why we don't have the wording or the sample ballots up on our website as of yet. We're waiting for the courts to figure this out. But I will be at this convention for the next 4 days. And then I will be returning, and I will continue my content. On Friday, I will do a Zoom with Zarni, probably posted later that night, with Chris Ryan, who's the minority leader of the Onondaga County Legislature, and the and running for Senate District 50 this weekend. I will do a weekly walk on the city of Syracuse. I did a weekly walk on the suburbs of Onondaga County this last weekend. You can find all of that at dustinzarni.com. But for now, I'm going to let you be. I'm going to go probably to bed. It's been a long day. But thank you for tuning in to Commissioner in a Car. And congratulations, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, our vice presidential nominee for the Democratic Party, along with Kamala Harris, who's our presidential nominee and current vice president, on to the general election. Bye-bye.